Hi, welcome to my video. This is another writing on the wall with me, Jennifer Roberts. You can catch me on my YouTube channel, True Divine 44. You're getting me there now. And you can catch me on Facebook at True Divine 44. It's the True Divine for both Instagram and Twitter. So bear with me on this one. The writing on the wall things are just where I put out what I'm seeing, what my knowings are, just what I want to talk about to people. And so bear with me on this one because I don't like upsetting people, but I've also learned to not worry about other people's triggers as to what I need to say and what I'm led to say from within me. And so I've been thinking about the division that is, on the collective stage. And it seems like it's no other. I don't think that is true. I think history is repeating because we've never broken the cycle for a long, long time, as in the collective taking their own divinity and sovereignty into play, so that things can keep, yes, we'll get a few steps forward, but, the history can keep, just like clothes keep repeating throughout fashion, styles come back in. I think that's where we're at with the collective stage as far as decisions being made, politics, royalty, all of that, the elite globalists. So I was looking at voting and I realized that I talked about this a few years ago with somebody who we'd said that, there were so many truths coming out regarding organized religion, in particular Christianity, the Catholic churches, and all of the others. But there was a real movement away from and learning more about the agenda of organized religion and churches. And what we did discuss is something that I brought up, is that a lot of people go to those churches, they go in the Sunday best, but they go there less for the belief system and more for the socialism, more for the knowing who's who, climbing up the ladder socially. They go for that camaraderie there. And so with a lot of people moving away from organized religion, in particular Christianity, there's this godless state of affairs where people have been so used to being accountable to a God outside of them, accountable to, not accountable to their actions because they can just ask for forgiveness. They can go in a booth and confess to a human, to a man, but that somehow gives them a direct line to God. They can't do that through themselves. And so there's this lost state, this void. That void is going to be filled, especially if people haven't done the inner work before they've transitioned out of organized religion. A lot of people will be able to associate with this emptiness in the physical routine of life, i.e. not attending service, the emptiness of the camaraderie, the talking after the service, the dinner parties that led from the church, all of those things. There's this void. People in the collective stage know that, and they're all too ready to fill it. And what I see is, now I'm not going to say anything personally against Trump. I don't need to go there, but everybody who knows me knows that I don't trust any political figure, and I certainly don't externalize anybody to be my savior, no matter what position they hold. That's up to me. That's my issue, my problem sometimes, my strength always. And so I see that it seems ludicrous, just like this whole lockdown thing, not lockdown, lockdown thing, not lockdown. It's ludicrous. And we see on the collective stage, particularly in the USA, how ludicrous it really is. We see that somebody who can't string sentences together in Biden, and we see somebody who can WWE the crowd up to really deliver oomph and get people going and really hone in on people's triggers of the patriotism, the the want for better. So we see these two sides, and we see the voids being filled up. And so we see that people are still externalizing to a great extent. So I was watching Seven Boma, who is amazing, on Inner Standing, and this brought it around to me that, you know, the voting system, time and time again, has proved that they get in who they want to get in. And no matter how much they dislike the other side, it ultimately is a chess game. It ultimately is a mind, you know what. And so it is, the voting system actually is the consent rule, in that they have to get your consent. They have to get your consent to move forward with their agendas. Two different sides can get various different kinds of consent. And then we see that, you know, on the Democratic side, we have people blaming the Republicans, blaming people in general, because and blaming the system because, you know, this is why we have Trump, because things got so bad. And then we have, you know, the Republican side blaming all of the bundles and hold-ups and all of this on the Democratic side. But we have the consent. The consent is shown by exchanging, as electromagnetic beings, exchanging energy into either side, by waving the flags for either side, by toting people's votes for either side. Again, this is even more consent, because people aren't getting paid necessarily to do this. They're doing this from their own energetic resource, which means a lot. It gives a lot of consent. And so we look at school. I've got notes here, that's what I'm looking at. So we look at school, particularly in America, because in the UK, there's hardly any politics in primary school, high school that is talked about. Honestly, it's hardly touched on. In the USA, I've heard a lot of my friends say that their children are getting wrong for talking about good things about Trump, and that all of the teachers are putting their democratic slant on things. Now, what would you do? And I just want you to think outside the box here and try to not get triggered. In that, as a child, you remember what it was like to be told you're not allowed something, to be told you're not allowed to speak on something or do something. It would make you more interested and more wanting of said something. It just does. Children are curious. They're beautifully curious. And so when somebody is halting them or holding them back from something, it's how a lot of kids get into trouble, you know, because they can't help but, you know, explore it and want to maybe support the very thing that their authority figure, their teacher, is saying no to. So then you've got the fact that we have got this energetic investment, and it's happening in the USA from grassroots, you know, the get the children. That's very easily done by making sure that the people that educate the children are generally from families or backgrounds that would go into teaching that would be on the Democratic side anyway. So it doesn't have to be this big ploy of all the teachers being pulled into the back room and saying, this is what we've got to do. They just have to make sure that they, as they do, watch what professions are what and who enters into these professions. And generally in teaching, a lot of the people would fall into the category of generational Democrats. So it's very easy to start that. So now we've got this versus situation, which builds up again a lot of energy, exchanges a lot of energy. And so then we've got, as we go further forward, we've got this, it's really difficult subjects. I know a lot of the people that I adore are still in this system, in the spins of this system. So if we look at what we see as what would be like Rothschild children, they are, out of fear, taught that you must keep control. You must keep control at all costs, even if that involves cruelty and abuse. You must keep control, because the fear is they'll come after you, child. They'll come after you. If you lose your grip slightly on them, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile and come after you for your power, for your money, and they're going to get you for all of the things all of the generations of the family have done before you. And then we've got that versus children who are parented by the collectives, the main. And with that, we have fear as well. With fear, they're being taught to vote for a saviour outside of self, because this is the one that is coming along. Remember Obama? This is the one that's coming along to save us. This is the saviour. So all along, we're instilling this pattern through fear on both sides of the spectrum, that one is led to keep control, keep control, keep control. The other one is led to give away control, give away control, give away control. And it's through this political voting system in a huge part, for a main part. So then we've got lifespan. You look at lifespan and you say, what, 70 to 80 for the average lifespan. And so generational knowledge is given and taken away through the control system. Generational knowledge on the Rothschild side is given to them. It's not knowledge that is lost, of how the monetary system works, how to screw the people with it, how to make more, how to cover your back. So that's passed down through their generations. Now in the collective, through the collective's generations, the grandparents are fading out because of that lifespan, and because they have been on the opposite end of this control system, this voting system, this opposite end spectrum, gradually the knowledge of how to swerve your way through and guide your way through the systems that we live under is lost more and more and more. So then we depend more and more and more on an external saviour. But that external saviour is taking a seat that has been involved, whether it's in the UK or the US, it's been involved. That seat is made up of the system that has been there so long. And so generally speaking, the person on the main seat actually has a very short time to do anything at all that has much lasting impact on this generational control deep state system that's going on. And also on the opposite end of the spectrum, in the collective, we give away less and less and less control through the lack of knowledge, through not passing down that knowledge, especially about people's divinity and sovereignty. So you see even more explosively today, this clinging on to a saviour. And so where we lost the church actually started this off for a lot of people, in that we've got the church in the middle, and we've got God and the devil, Jesus and Satan, the opposite ends of the spectrum. We've got the people that are going to the church that are told in many ways that they're made up of both, that there's good people and bad people, that good people can do bad things, this versus nature, when in actual fact, we're all made up of the whole of it, you know, our lower frequency, our higher frequency, our negative and positive, our darker and our lighter. It's a wholeness of us, but it is put into verses. And so church helps indoctrinate this inner conflict, this inner hatred of self, this spinning out of control because you can't quite grasp, are you good, are you bad, I better do this that they're asking to do because I want to be on this good side. And where the void has happened, where a lot of people have moved away from the church, finally seeing the truth of what the church stands for, they've replaced that, just like an organ transplant. They've transplanted themselves into the political system. But they've already been primed, like you're primed in a hard childhood when you see a difficult marriage between your parents. You're primed to accept that in your first few relationships until you learn. They're already primed to have a good and a bad, a savior and a demon. And so I see a lot of people investing a lot of time and hope in a savior outside of self. And that worries me for the people that I love. Because ultimately there's still this sticky situation that is stuck and indoctrinated and conditioned into the system as is. There's not enough divinity and sovereignty standing up and saying, actually, no, I know that there needs to be timing and things like that, but actually we just need the information that we need now. We just need to know where our money's going. We need to know actually really where our vote is going. And so I just want to remind you that we're already, it's been proven how many times before that the opposite sides, the red pill and the blue pill, the opposite, the verses, the Biden and the Trump, the Boris and I don't even know who else, because it's hardly been spoken about in the UK. Yeah, I just want you to be aware that, and be really honest with yourself as to how many times have you actually really been fooled to give your consent to something? How many times did you finally think there was somebody in the seat that was going to do the trick, that was going to save us all? And I'm not saying that good things can't come from Trump being elected again. I'm not saying that good things can't come from Boris or somebody else being elected again. To me, it matters very little, because this system is a narcissistic relationship. We get love bombed, we get ghosted, we get drawn back in, we get love bombed, we get ghosted, we get drawn back in, and then there's abuse going on all under the radar all the time. And so to me, of course, this system asks and demands that some good things are done, that some good changes are made. But instead of the system demanding that so that it can keep up its guise of being a good system, instead of that, it's the people that need to demand that. It's the people that need to stand together collectively for full disclosure regarding paedophilia, for full disclosure regarding these secret cults that decide to manifest things on the collective stage that we haven't given knowing consent to. For us to really know what kind of consent, both spiritually and physically, does a vote give? For us to truly know that. So this is just a quick video to put it out there that, you know, what we're seeing, the decisions that are being made have shown, I think, not so much in the UK because we're such a much smaller country, and all of Parliament is, you know, a mess. But we see that, you know, even through the stages of this lockdown period, this last 7 months, that great speeches have been delivered by Trump. Great speeches, inspiring, riling the crowd up. WWE, if that's the right word, speeches being made. But at the same time, even out of his own mouth, he's told you the truth. That, yeah, we'll step in if they ask us to, but actually the power of control is local. They decide, you know, about the police, and they decide whether they want us to come in and help with military, even when people are killing each other, rioting. They decide that the power is local. And so all of this time, the energy, you guys as electromagnetic beings are pointing in the opposite direction of your local and pointing to a savior outside, when the savior himself is saying that actually this system does not allow me very easily at all to just go in heavy-handed. I have to be asked. They have to take my request, take up on my invitation for help, because the power is actually local. And so that's when we see the truth in these systems. And that's where we see a little bit of truth in the voting. So just be aware of that. You know, it's just me speaking out loud about my thoughts after watching Inner Standing and seeing how the workings of consent and voting does work, and how I know spiritually what that means for me. And while we are in this reset, there are going to be things that shock you to the core. And one thing that's going to shock you to the core is that voting is part of the system. Voting is an intrinsic part of giving your consent. So much love. Please comment, let me know how you feel. I promise I won't get triggered by anything that's said. Be balanced, be whole. I love you all. Mwah.